for Keith to be here with everyone, and yeah, just thanks for coming, for joining in. And first, he will begin with a brief Thanksgiving ritual that just to make sure to, let's say, to rise up a long moral arc, a long arc of moral universe. This is like a quote for Martin Luther King. It's just to give gratitude to the ancestors, and this is a kind of indigenous also practice to acknowledge where one comes from and the whole lineage. And this will be done in Slovene. 1 moment, 1 minute long. Zahvaljujem se vsem svojim prednikom za tole izkušnjo, za tole predavanje, brez katerih podpore in pozornosti danes tega tu ne bi bilo. Posvečam to predavanje za dobrobit vseh čuječih bitij, naj služi zavedanju in razvoju lastnega sebstva. Hvala, amasegnala, grazie, thank you. Okay. So, to start with, he thought that it would be nice to directly tap into trance, and to do this, he has chosen a short guided meditation, and that he will play. It lasts 6 minutes, and just to explain what it is, because trance is an ideal state of learning. So ideally, in an ideal society, in an ideal world, like at university, every lecture would start by getting, okay, let's get all in trance. And then one can really immerse fully into the learning process. So please find a comfortable position and relax. And you can either keep your eyes open, but with a diffused gaze, or just close your eyelids down as you prefer. Enjoy.
The following meditation is led by Tara Brach. As you become still, let your attention and your awareness fill your body. Part of your body that wants to let go a little, to loosen, to soften. You might take a few full breaths to collect the attention. And then awaken the senses. Listen. Listen to the space that's around you. The soft sound. Listening in a global way. Not just with your ears, but with your whole awareness. Maybe you can detect what's called the sound of silence, that background hum. Sensing the space of awareness that perceives the sound of silence. Sensing the stillness that experiences this vibration and aliveness in the body right now. Can you sense that everything is changing? That Nothing's holding still. Can you open entirely to this changing flow of aliveness? Just to say yes to it. To let go into the river of the senses. Is there anything that's solid? Is there any center to experience? Any boundary? Is there any self in this world of sensation? You don't have to think about it, just keep arriving more and more into this aliveness. It's right here. It's like this. I'd explore if it's possible just to let go a little more into the changing flow, moment to moment. The poet Dana Fault writes, settle in the here and now. Reach down into the center where the world is not spinning and drink this holy peace. Feel relief flood into every cell. Nothing to do, nothing to be but what you are already. Nothing to receive but what flows effortlessly from the mystery into form. Nothing to run from or run toward. Just this breath. Awareness knowing itself as embodiment. Just this breath. Awareness waking up to truth.
Welcome back with your time. Take your time. No rush. Body, that's a good thing to do. And let this sense of relaxation go from down until the tips of your toes, and just feel your body in total way. Your body is opening and your mind is opening and ready to start this lecture. So, trance. What is trance? Basically, trance is a state of being in which one transcends oneself, in which one taps into like unordinary states, like skills, or unordinary into a non-ordinary reality. It involves usually a deep sense of relaxation or rightness, but this is not needed. But it's a good thing to be relaxed when getting into trance. It helps. And it has also like a very concrete physical body like symptoms, or like the body works in a different modality than in the normal way. And there are two ways how to get into trance. Broadly speaking, there is a so-called the via negativa or the via positiva. And the via negativa is embedded, is based on practices of renunciation and of hypostimulation. So when one's decrease the amount of stimuli, and for example fasting or just different practices of renunciation, like no audio stimuli alone, and so forth, or yoga, even like also some meditative body practices can bring to trance. This is the via, and meditation, of course. This is the via negativa way, or the via positiva, which is a shamanic tantric way how to achieve trance, and that is usually based on on hyperstimulation and into a total immersion into the sensuous reality, and both work. And indeed there is a third way, and maybe the most sustainable way is when one gets so familiar with trance that is able, or that both ways intertwine, and so it's not either or, but it's a merging of the different techniques how to get there. And sometimes trance can arise some body reactions, also like trembling can arise, or some like paralysis, or usually one can start to yawn. Like yawning is also a sign of getting into trance, which is quite interesting to know. And and then it's anesthesia, also a characteristic. So which means that when one in a deep enough state of trance, one don't feel pain, because anesthesia arises, and to give a concrete, a lived experience of that. When Ki started to work on this interesse practice that Ki will talk about a little later on, Ki started by just going out in the street on the public squares, and Ki would just lay down a circle, an arena made of recycled plastic shopping bags, and into which Ki would start to dance, and dance barefoot. But Ki wasn't used to be barefoot, and so Ki didn't have like a strong feet to sustain this practice the first day. And so Ki danced in trance for 2 hours during a public concert happening in the square. And then when Ki came home, Ki finally looked at the feet and noticed that they were all bleeding, full of cuts. But Ki was totally didn't felt nothing of that. Wasn't aware of the seizures on the feet at all, until coming at home, reaching home and looking at the feet and see, oh, that's not good. And then for the next 1 week, you could not walk at all. It was basically mostly lying or just staying at home and recovering. So anesthesia is an interesting phenomena, and also like thermal disturbances, or one can handle extreme like coldness or heat more easily. And to look into the biochemistry of trance, there are basically two hormones that are at the base of of the experience, and is first of all, being in trance allows the brain, or stimulates the brain, to release endorphins. Are the feel-good hormones, and so that's why when one is in trance, usually the practitioner or the ones who the trancing person feels very, very well, and is a sort of a bliss and just a general joy and exaltation. So this is caused, like technically speaking, or like biochemically speaking, this is caused by endorphins. And endorphins also are the ones who make the anesthesia possible, that sustain anesthesia, or like the thermal ability of the body to regulate in a more on a wider scale. But also, like, oxytocin gets released, and oxytocin, as many of you key beliefs have heard, is the so-called love hormone, and it gets released during kissing, during sexual sensuous intercourse, hugging, and it's also like the cause for this exploded awareness that follows trance experiences. But also oxytocin fires up the mirror neurons, and the mirror neurons are the neurons who allows empathy to emerge. And also learning. That's why trance is the ideal learning state, and this is like scientifically proven. Because when the mirror neurons are lightened up, are fired, people can learn just by watching. Because of this sensation of empathy, one connects with what another person is experiencing or doing, and that's why just by attending a certain performance, a certain task, or a certain emotion coming up, the same parts of the brain get activated, and so this either visceral empathic connection can happen, or this like internal learning process can happen as well, which is extremely fascinating. So that's about the biochemistry of trance. And and another way how to get into trance is, of course, also through hypnosis. And Ki has also some training into this. He has training in hypnotherapy. But the procedure is similar, but Ki didn't really appreciate the way how it's done, because Ki found it too aggressive, and that's why Ki distances it from it, and started to get back to this more spontaneous ways how to reach trance. And so getting into trance, well, the easiest way is as Dudek, the artist who gave one talk here at the University of the Underground, already mentioned the easiest way how to get into trance, how to reach some sort of religious experience is music. And that's, that's the easiest way, an immediate way how to relax, and then if dancing is involved, it's even easier. And there is a general misconception about trance, that it's something far out, very distant and magical, but indeed everyone experiences trance on a daily basis, but mostly just for short brief moments. And so there is no time to really to cultivate an awareness of when it happens, how it happens. And but also like so musical events, raves, the Techno Trance is a huge practice, or like a way how to get into it. And he is still a raver, and was a good way how to get into these realms. And but also, and this is very interesting, most of the psychological psychic conditions, like also medical conditions like depression, psychosis, or euphoria, can also be regarded as form of trance, like not very efficient, but are also forms of trance, of being out of oneself. Because trance, from the Greek word ecstasis, this is the etymological origin of the word, means ex is out, stasis, like standing out of oneself. That's the etymological definition of the word trance. So we are going beyond oneself. And there are also several like ecstatic body techniques that sustain or that offer gateways into trance. Just to mention a few, just to give a depiction of it, like headbanging, like very continuous handbanging can be one way. Then also all repetitive movements are brilliant tools how to get into trance, and that's why also repetitive like rhythms and musical scores function so well. And that's also going back to raves, like why repetitive, like the repetition of beats just function perfectly to sustain these kind of experiences. And also like a very relaxed sensation in the body and free movement, not losing control, letting go of the thoughts, letting go of the wish to impose anything on your body, but just follow whatever is arising, follow the impulses, and attend to the needs of the body. That's the way. And so maybe a few words now about the Techno Trance. Because Techno Trance is can be regarded as a via positiva way how to enter into trance, because of the hyper stimulation that occurs in raves. because at raves one enters into a totally, fully immersive musical environment where music really penetrates one's body, can be felt into the bones. And then also, as mentioned, the repetitive beats, musical samples help, and the general accelerando and crescendo musical tempo. So the music gets higher and higher. And this increase of the sonic density, it's also part. And repetitive music as well. For example, in at raves, the shuffling. Shuffling is a movement of like a step, a typical rave step that gets repeated over and over, and also like with hands. There's usually this directing traffic, can be called, when one is painting into the air some forms, usually quite geometrical, and that's also part of the ecstatic body techniques at raves. And also vocals have a part, because usually the vocals are quite hypnotic. There are just few vocals, but when they're quite hypnotic, and hypnotic inductions, are based mostly also on the use of the language, and especially with an attention into the tonality, into the rhythmic aspect of the voice, how words are pronounced, and the rhythmic aspect of the text, of the vocal, of the slogan that gets inculcated into the awareness of the dancing crowd. And like what happens at raves, like thanks to all this stimuli, this hyper stimulation that's occurring, like a state of collective effervescence gets created. And this is a term from the German sociologist Durkheim. It's collective effervescence, and it's typical of religious experiences, of rites, traditional rites, festivities, and it has to do with this development of collective attunement, of a shared mind state of mind. So when, let's say, the frequency of one's mind is in resonance with the frequency of everyone, or most of the people around you, and certainly, that's a magic, a very powerful experience. Maybe as a curiosity, like different cultures and different countries have different relationships towards trance. And for example, in Eastern countries, in Buddhist countries, like there are 7 different trance states, because there is, like, Buddhism is like a science. It's very schematic, very very scientifically developed, and the name for trance is jhana, and there are 8 jhanas. It's also 8 states of mind, and the first 4 are linked with the entrance into a realm of are still linked into form, the realm of forms, and then the last four have rise into a realm of into a formless realm. Okay, and then it's time to, well, Ki finds useful to share what brought Ki into the onto this path of trance. And Ki was diagnosed when at the age of 20, like 13 years ago, with multiple sclerosis, which is a condition that, like from a medical point of view, is cannot be cured. And but then in 2012, when Ki got the last seizure, the third and last seizure of this health condition of multiple sclerosis. And it happens like one loses control of parts of one's body, and Ki lost control on the right side of the body, especially the right hand. And spontaneously, Ki was home alone. Ki was actually in the same room as now, which is like a temple. And Ki started to dance. And Ki danced for hours in a very like free, spontaneous, frenetic way, ecstatic way. And during this crazy dance, Ki noticed that Ki was able to move the entire body, and which was strange because normally in a normal state of consciousness, Ki was not able to move the right side of the body. But in this dance, Ki would flow, Ki would just immerse into the body and do all these articulated movements without any impediments. And so, and also, and this is of course a very high experience, like spontaneous, but experience of trance. He also felt so empowered by the whole experience that the next day, the day after, he went to the horse drugs, and he will just stop taking medications, and he will find a holistic cure for this condition, and that was it. He never had any symptoms or any backdrops after that. But it was huge work, and don't have time to go into, but open to to give more info if anyone has some curiosity personally. Just write me an email. And so what Ki did basically was to start the training of these ecstatic techniques, body techniques, and develop this interesse practice that maybe Ki proposed to have just a short, it's a short video. It's 6 minutes long. Maybe let's look at it together, and then just start a conversation.
I would say maybe it would be better that you share it inside the chat box, and then people can watch it on their own screen, because we found that it doesn't really work well when you.
Okay, so just shall I put the link?
Yeah, do that.
Okay. But thank you.
And what is the video that you're sending? Is it?
Yeah, it's just a practice of what Ki has been describing, just the dance, this trance technique, that interest that Ki developed.
So everybody to watch that video, right?
Yeah.
Jatun,
Yes.
do you want to take some questions? Because I'm looking at the time as well, so I just want to make sure that you have some time for the questions as well, because
Yeah, I want to start with the questions.
let me know when you want to. Yeah, shall we look some time for questions?
Can we start?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Ki would like to open the platform for questions and for a genuine, direct conversation with the students.
Okay, so you know, everyone, how that works. If you want to put some question into the chat section where, you know, Ki can kind of see your questions, but then also if you want to just intervene, just take the microphone and then ask. I can see that, Merv, you have quite a few experience of trance, you know, trance reading, additional reading as well, and other practices. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Merv, are you there?
Hello, I'm here. Yeah, it's kind of also my interest to this kind of like trance movement and then kind of experiences actually. So I was just looking at that kind of stuff that you're also like, you're always talking about some like more Western side of this rituals and also this kind of trance experience, but there's also another side of it. So I was just that's why I write a comment about it. So there's also East Coast of this like trance movements, like this is also kind of my culture, but also like we are, this is very common in our culture actually. You can easily see that kind of people doing this kind of rituals and going other side of the world and that kind of stuff. So it's also another point of view that I wanted to mention. And also there's another shamanic ceremonies that you are also working with medicine, and then it's also belongs to South America. So like another culture, and they also having Lakota ceremonies like Sundance, so dancing all night long and then giving a body part of the people as advice. So these are other things that you can also experience trance movements.
Mm-hmm.
And also some doctrines like maybe Osho dynamic meditation and Gurdjieff movements as well. Like, so I'm kind of an experienced person, so sometimes if I have chance to experience any of it, so I'm always in it. So
no, thanks for sharing. Ki knows all of this, but yeah, it's good to point them out, and because Ki also did like a field study about ZAR, as mentioned by Nelly at the beginning, and that was also shared in the bibliography in the list about this lecture. So you can find some examples of ritual trance practices from different cultures as well, not only raves, but this, this is the raves are something very common. So in West, so that's why I keep put an emphasis on that. But thank you for this beautiful reference.
And the mention, Merv mentioned are inside the chat, everyone, as well, if you wanted to kind of like, you know, look at the different practices that you share, Merv, as well. They are inside the chat section. And we have a question from Liam. Where are you, Liam? Liam, I never managed to say that.
No worries. Yeah, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the importance of repetition, either in the dance scene or the music. You talked a little bit of repetitive rhythms and rave music, but it's kind of found in a lot of trance.
No, that's a great question, because what happens, like in trance, like the attention gets narrowed, so the attention gets from diffused to very focused, very narrowed, and that's that's what happens in repetition, either in music or with the use of one's body. So yeah, this narrowing down and focusing, or just this continuum generates this the trance.
And can you also tell us the reasoning, like why bringing trance into the public sphere? Because the video that you share is obviously like using trance within, you mentioned big cultural events. What's the kind of the role of that? Like this is obviously a special use of dance, like Liam was mentioning as well, the repetition, why bring the trance into this kind of context?
Thanks for this beautiful question. Because there is a huge taboo in West about these altered states of consciousness, about freedom, free expression of oneself more and more, which is quite problematic. And so how to really to break these taboos and how to create a space where one can be free, one can express freely and without boundaries, without control, and how to make this part of reality, of the possibility, and this also cultivates inclusivity, brings emotion, it's good to challenge this too polite sometimes, but on one side, but on the other side too exclusive, or really also violent society in which we live, but by opening up a space without censorship, basically, without
and are you, so you do the performance and then do you then leave and become Jatun, or how does that work? Like when the trance is over, what happens? Are you having dialogue with people around that kind of
usually yes.
Mm-mm. So you have
and also he likes to have conversations after, well, it depends from project to project, but usually there is a space that for conversation, where the co-participants or the audience can share their expressions, their sensations.
Hi, I'm Hera. Yeah, hi. I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit about this in-between term or interest that you have used for your performance. What's the difference? Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the name interesse comes from Latin again, and it means in between. And because trance is an in-between state, it's a state when one, as the ecstasis implies, when one is standing out. So it's this okay, how to be in an egoless state, how to drop your common identity, or common everyday identity, and to tap to enter into an exploded state where one doesn't identify neither with the body, neither with the mind. So, and where one basically follows the impulses that spontaneously fire up, emerge out of one's body, which demands an extreme attention that needs to be cultivated. It's a skill. One doesn't, it's not born with it. Like it demands training. That's why like these techniques needs to be cultivated. But yeah, how to bring maximum attention to the body, but then letting go. And the same with the mind, how to be really present and how to, but then not identify, don't over conceptualize, but just be, and to how to really attend the moment.
But if we say that when we are like the moment, if we call this in, and if we call the trance out, you know, this
Yeah.
In between, I that something between this. Sometimes I think that maybe trance is completely out of full consciousness, and maybe even you don't have any control sometimes to come back to in or in between.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Key developed this interest practice, because it's not only trance, it's not tracing out, spacing out, but it brings attention, and so that one can integrate the trance into a daily experience, and how to really make something valuable out of it. It's not just like, okay, spacing out and, you know, lose oneself in trance, but it's, yeah. Thank you.
I will just.
Oh yeah, the becoming animal, great.
Yeah, just thinking about on our research here on University of Underground, and I'm studying on these non-anthropocentric forms of performing. Thinking here in Brazil on that is influenced from Artaud and from Creer's perspective too. So maybe to this idea of disorganize the body. So maybe talk a little references or lectures or books that you could share with us, and a little about becoming animal if we have time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. So yeah, Key's been working with the idea of animals since, because why? Because, well, that's a perspective in which one acknowledges the inhumanity in oneself by corresponding with other forms of life, by attending the qualia, the qualia, this is like a specific term, or the way of movement of another animal. One sort of, again, creates this resonance, and then it experiences other waves of being in the world, and this emerges also the inhumanity in oneself, and can also lead to some maybe like the limitations of one's mindset get challenged, or the limitations of how we normally use the body get disrupted. And so it's by becoming other than self, that by opening to the realm of animalhood, one can integrate what has been forgotten, what has been lost in the process of commodification of life, of modernization, and then how to bring this back into one's awareness, into the repertory of possibilities of using one's body. And Key can provide a more extended bibliography. Key has plenty of references that can be shared and added to the ones that were already mentioned.
Hi. In the context you were showing this video, a piece that you made in the video, what do you distinguish is the distinction between performance and ritual, or like ritual happening?
My question is about using drugs and its impact to trance experiences, actually, because especially when we talk about raving, technoculture, and psychedelic psytrance, for instance, these things are very connected to each other. And I'm wondering, actually, in long term, does it have a is it helpful or disruptive to achieve trance by yourself without additional chemicals and this kind of help?
The video that was shared, this was how Ki began to practice performance art, and it was not it was not really like organized performance. It was like public interventions into the public sphere, and it was it's a very punk way how to do performance, and in a very disruptive way of just coming there and putting like out this, creating this arena, and then just embodying this public space in a trance state, which is taboo. So yeah, it was. But there was certainly a ritual aspect in it as well. So yeah, I guess that should be. And then the use of psychedelics and drugs, yes, it definitely opens the way to immediate experiences of trance, but and it can be helpful just to get a sense, a taste of it. But it's important to know on a long, especially on a long run, how to find these resources in oneself, because these resources are available spontaneously, and this will be just for the sake of sustainability and of being in still some kind of control and being more at ease and at home with the experience of trance. So yes, it can be useful, but it's good to really to know thyself, to know oneself, and explore within the resources one already have innately.